Good morning. We're going to start. I have prepared a quite formal presentation because I had in mind a bigger group. And this is kind of intimate, but well, I will go on anyway. Óscar Tomico is research fellow, as you know, of the l'eLC Center, and he will be working with us till the end of January. During his stay, Muriel Garreta and Magí Almirall are his mentors, and in fact he's collaborating as well with the Office of Learning Technologies. He's been assistant professor at the Technological University of Eindhoven in the Department of Industrial Design for the last 3 years, more specifically in the area of designing quality in interaction. Besides the l'eLC Center, he has been a guest researcher and lecturer at the University of Tsukuba School of Comprehensive Human Science and at Chiba University, both in Japan, and also at the Helsinki University of Arts and Design in Finland. He obtained his PhD in 2007 from the UPC in Barcelona about innovation processes in product design. And his thesis makes a specific emphasis on the development of subjective psychological exploration techniques based in the constructivist paradigm. At this moment, his research focuses on the exploration of the relationships between the physical, social, and virtual domains to design new information interfaces that can support knowledge sharing and knowledge building processes. And the research project he's developing at the l'eLC Center is also related with this specific field. And in this case, situated bookmarking is used as a framework for the design. Today, he will talk about this line of work, both from a conceptual and a methodological perspective, and will provide us with some examples of the specific projects he has taken part of. Finally, he will share with us the process of what we could say research through design he is developing here during his stay. So thank you very much, Óscar, when you wish.
Well, thank you for this extensive presentation. I think I don't need to explain again what I'm going to talk about because you already have it. You already know. So yeah, my name is Óscar Tomico, and I'm here for 3 months, and I'm going to explain a bit like the process of this project, which started with tagging resources and bookmarking, and it ended up like discussing about how hybrid design spaces or hybrid working spaces should be about. So first, a short introduction about the university where I come from, and especially the design department where I'm working at. It's not really the typical design department. It's actually where electronic engineering and software engineering meets conceptual design. So the focus normally in design departments is on conceptualization and building and production. And here we shift the focus of the design department to opportunity finding through prototyping and toying and with technology and conceptualization. So we work like at the beginning of the process, and we don't really work on the next part. It was a way of differentiating the university in Delft from the universities in Eindhoven. It comes from a need from technological partners like Philips and other companies in the region to create this kind of designer who can actually be more like an innovator or like this person that can talk to all these different partners, like technological partners, also like business people, etc., and develop new concepts. But let's see this introduction video. It explains it much better than me. promotional video, so it's like this. But what it is important about it? It's what we are trying to do. It's a bit of a, like, it's quite adventurous, no? It's a way of combining the people teaching in our department are like engineers, scientists, sociologists, and designers. And we are trying to train people who are in between these three fields, which in a way it's like really good for the field of design because they'll be able to work and talk to multiple people. But at the same time, they are not part of any of these three groups. So we are creating like a new field in a way. So if you talk with a traditional designer, you will say that you are not a designer. If you talk to an engineer, you'll say that you are not an engineer. If you talk to a social scientist, they will tell you that you are not a social scientist. So, well, let's see what happens. So what we are working on in my research group. So my research group, it's called Design Quality and Interaction. And it's mainly about systems design. So it evolved over the years. It started from design for appearance, so how things look, like the relation between form and functionality. Then they work on how this design for appearance could be instrumental for the interaction. It means the relation between form, function, and behavior. And then the question is, what happens when we have more than one object relating, or more than one technology relating to more than one person? So what happens when we have this group of technologies and people all together that relate to each other? So part of the functionalities come from the technology, but part of the functionalities come from the social domain, from people itself. So how these relate to each other? What needs to be then designed and what needs to be supported? So these are the questions that we are asking ourselves. And more especially, how to design for this. I mean, the way of designing one object with a specific functionality, it's completely different from designing an ecology of products that their functionality grows depending on how you relate one to each other. In order to do that, we focus in three parameters. One, it's like research through design. So we use design action as a creator of knowledge. And I want to show you one example of one final master project that I was coaching. And then we'll reflect on it.
Hello, I love you, let me jump in your game. Are you so fed up of the same old broken man?
So the question here was not, the result here, it's not just designing this control for your music, but it's about exploring how actually the environment could be the interface for your music collection. So we are used to browse music through keywords, through words, but what if we can actually browse music through where we play it, or through the environment where we actually are? So can I actually store music or radio streams underneath my table, next to this cup? Can I store information, for example, when I have a coffee in the morning and the sun is still rising? So the question is that by just this simple mapping of light to musical parameters, what we are creating is a new tool that people can use to browse their collection. So the idea here is that we are not just focusing on creating this object, but through this object, also we are rethinking what the possibilities are. So it helps us to understand better this new situation that we are working or that we are trying to envision. So something else that's really important, it's designing in context. So what means is that design action, it's considered a social transformation. So if we are creating objects that are going to make people behave differently, we really need to try it out and see if what happens. So it's, let's say, it's not ethically correct to just do something which can potentially change people's life and let it go and wait and see. I mean, the problem here is that we might end up, I mean, in the same way that if you make a road and it breaks and people die, something will happen to you. You have responsibilities. The same is with design. If now you make something that will make people discuss more, or people don't get out of their houses, it's also your responsibility. And you need to work on it from the beginning to avoid it. So for example, this is another final master project. And it's a communication tool for Japanese kids. In this case, in order to design this tool, the student, she had to go to Japan, and she was inside the school for quite a long time. She was observing, but she was also even designing with the kids. So this shape, this way of charging, this way of using it, it's based on what they wanted. And actually the functionality of this, it's tailored to the social situation. So it's tailored with the idea that what happens inside the schools and what happens outside the schools, it's not shared. So what she wanted to work on, it's create bridges where kids can exchange things that happen at home, at school, and the other way around. So these key points like research through design and designing in context are really important. But how they relate together? People from our department, like you friends and Caroline Hummels, developed this reflective transformative design process, which in a way relates these two drives that designers have. So on one side, the motivational drive, is this design driven by me? So do I think that this is the way to go, or this is what society needs? So that's one thing. And the other part, it's more related to what we said about research through design. You can do things, but you can also analyze them and reflect on it. So that's what I'm explaining here a bit. So the idea is that by multiple iterations, you can jump from one to another. You can jump from envisioning, so thinking, having a mental idea or thinking how the future should be. So analyze like these transitions or things like that. Or you can go and talk with people. You can involve them in the process multiple times. Or you can, in a way, do things, try it out, make it, learn from it, get the skills you need to develop it further, or at the same time analyze what it means, what are the consequences of these things, how different technologies will have different impact, and things like that. The interesting thing here is this jump, to be able to jump from one to another and again and again and again. Why is that important? Because we don't really know actually where we will end, because we are working on things that have never been done before in a way. So it's not really, how you say it, it's not like a traditional design process where you have a design brief and then you have a solution. Here we say that at the beginning you find the opportunity, which you will transform into this new society, this new way of understanding the situation. So this is more like how the department works, what kind of tools or approaches we have. So I would like to talk a bit about the work I'm doing. So lately I called what I've been working on situated media. But actually what I'm doing is exploring how the consumption and creation of digital media will be transformed by the inclusion of the social and physical context as part of the content. What I'm saying is that if a video, it's not a video anymore, but it's a video used by these people at 3 o'clock in the afternoon with a specific motivation and with specific goals, if all these things becomes one package, how it's going to transform the way of dealing with it, the way of accessing the information, the way of using things. So for example, this was a project called Light-Based Expressive Signage, which was about exploring like social recommendations in retail environments. And the idea was about how you can give the information needed for supporting a decision during the process of selecting. So here recommendations are given in the moment that you are going to pick up some clothes. So when you pick up a clothes, other ones similar light up and things like this. So actually the information is given in the moment that it's necessary, in the moment that it's meaningful, and not completely detached from the context or from the person. Another example for retail stores, it's a project called Browsing Through Creation. But in this case was about using music as a reassurance in changing rooms. So normally when you buy something or when you are almost nearly going to buy it, you are not really sure. You want to, that's why you go and try it out. When you try it out, what you want to see is if it really fits you. What they do with music, it's to give an idea if it will fit the context that you are thinking of. So in a way, music is used as a way of giving extra information about where you're going to be later on with it. So by being able to select the music that it's more appropriate for this cloth, you are able to reflect if it really fits or not. Another project was, that's yours? No. Was it called like this, Mapping Your Neighborhood? Yeah, well, that's the general thing. So it was also about thinking how the physical tagging of activities will permeate the web and the other way around. So how what you do in the physical space will be also in a website, things like that, with the idea that then I mean, normally people say that ICT divides, ICT makes excludes people. The question is here, how can we make the interface in different levels that can go from completely physical to completely digital? And this is an example of this. I mean, you can tag physically something that you want to show, but you can also go to the web and then see it there. So this allows that a wide range of people will be able to use it. Another one was called Nouvelles d'ici. It's actually from the same project next door. And in this case, it's about how physical traces can become digital recommendations. So if you move these parts of the pillar, you actually are browsing what's more important for you. But at the same time, you are leaving it for others, what actually you've seen, or what you at the end thought it was interesting for you. So it's about, and then what if this poll can track these movements and then just give these recommendations of like the number of people that have seen these, the number of time that have stayed there. If we move a bit further, then we can think what we are doing. It's presenting information in a way that it's suitable for the actions that people want to achieve or want to do. Why not? How can we then apply it to rethink, for example, libraries? I mean, in digital libraries or physical libraries, now they are in a really big critical point. They don't really know what they are anymore. So the question is how actually design can help that. How can then how this kind of way of rethinking what should be digital or what should be physical can help to explore new ways of libraries, can help, for example, to create knowledge-sharing communities. So the idea of like how tailoring the medium to the specific actions of creation and consumption of content can make people do things together, can make people create and consume content together. So an example of these explorations is this project called SoundClouds. And this was a spatial music sharing platform. In this case, what they are, if we say it simply, this project, it's about critically looks at bookshelves or music shelves. And it confronts like what normally it's static in a normal library, like you have an existing bookshelf with specific topics, or a music rack with classical or pop, with what's happening in internet with user-generated classifications and user-generated content or consumption. Here what we have is that the person that sits in this, what we have here is that bookshelves has been transformed into just sofas or places to sit. There you can consume music, and people that will sit next to you can consume what you are listening or what you've listened before. In this way, what you're creating is specific points where specific kinds of music will be shown, will be shared. So, for example, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon on a Sunday, it might be that we have hard rock mixed with country, and in the other one it will be classical mixed with folk, and on the other table it will be about kids' songs. But the next morning it will be different, and the next day also. But might be that after a few weeks or after a few months, people will meet on Thursdays to listen to this kind of music, or will meet on Mondays to listen something else. Another project was about the way we explore music. Technology allows us to browse differently than names as it's been used in libraries. It allows us to browse through musical descriptors or physical parameters of music. In this case, this project explores this associative way of browsing, which is like browsing through similar items. So the idea here is that you pick one song, and then you can diverge from it in this kind of circles. So the first song might be a pop song, but then you will get into a rock song which has a similar beat or a similar pattern. And then if you diverge more, you can get something else. If you are happy with this, you can just listen it or pre-listen it. If not, you can just put it in the middle again and keep on searching. So the idea here is, again, we normally in libraries we browse through names, so completely names, classifications. What if you create your own classifications, your own names, your own ways of browsing? Another one was about where the source of information is. This project called PIG was about how lifestyles or the way people dress or the way that people do things could be a way of augmenting information. So the thing is, it's a really simple project, but what if I let people see what I purchased or what I have with me in a clear way? How this will change the way of looking for information? Because actually what we are doing is more people bought these recommendations, like other people bought these kind of things physically in the space of the library. So you can think that people will move around from the different floors showing the things that they liked. And because it's digital information, you can get the same again. It's not like it's taken. What happens now is that once it's taken, it's taken. But now we have the possibility to share it again and again and again to all the people that want it. So this is what this project explored. And finally, this project called NUC, something like that, I don't know. It was about exploring collaborative input and collaborative output. Normally with technology, it's always like a one-one kind of thing. I, or myself with the computer, I do something, I get something that's for myself. Here what they were exploring is, what if us want something, and we get something back for us? So the question is, if we want to create communities, and we still use one-to-one communication channels, we won't be able to get that far, because technology still will segregate people and will actually divide them into little groups. This thing was a way of exploring if it's possible that multiple people can request songs together and that the recommendations actually can fit multiple people at the same time. And in this case, it used like Last.fm APIs in order to support the search and the information obtained. So what I'm doing here together with these two guys? The project, it's called Situated Bookmarking. And it's like all the others, because if you've seen all the other projects, it's exactly the same, but in different contexts. It's about exploring this convergence between digital, social, and physical. In this case, about the bookmarking of resources. I put resources in brackets because it could be multiple things. In a way, it's about how to make sure that the members of the eLearn Center can access and use the flow of all relevant information they need, no? Like ongoing activities, latest work, interests. That's what could be called resources. It's also about how to process, so in a way evaluate, store, qualify, tag and communicate this relevant information to support research or your personal activities. It's about how to identify the right method and the right media to communicate and disseminate this information. So, how all what I told you about research through design, or what I told you about designing in context, fits in this project? Okay, so there was first, what we see here is that we are working on multiple iterations. Here you see 2 iterations. Why you don't see more? Because I don't know what's going to happen later. Depending on the results from this second iteration, the next activities will change. That's the main idea of the reflective transformative design process. You don't really plan the whole process, but based on the results or reflecting on the situation or reflecting on the process, you decide what it's more convenient to do next. It might be because of constraints, it might be because of your skills, it might be about time, it might be about your interests. But it's important to think that I'm just showing 2 because there's nothing more. Of course there's a planning, there's a timing, but exactly the activities are not yet defined. So how does it work? What was the first iteration about? The first iteration was about framing this project, was about finding the opportunity space. And we did that through a workshop and also through reflecting on the results of these concepts. Based on that, we got like 4 different directions to follow, or 4 different, actually, lines that define what is possible, what could be done. After that, we work on the second iteration. The second iteration was more about doing. It was, in this case, from our side. So if the first part was deeply rooted into society, like the lower part of this model that I show you, the second part, it was more based on the designer part. So how, for example, more like out-of-the-box thinking can be used to define the conceptual space or the possibilities that you as a designer can offer. And how, by comparing it and reflecting it on the situations that happen, can this be transformed into concepts? These are the things that happen in this second iteration. But let's go more in detail. So the situated media workshop that we did like a few weeks ago, it was about rethinking your working space as an exhibition space, to showcase your ongoing activities, latest work, interests. So what we did, there was a short introduction, well, not really short, but there was an introduction on the topic. It was a way of giving some clues about what research through design means, what are empathic design tools, what was this co-reflection process that we were doing, but also what it meant designing context and what they had to do. So the first part of the workshop was to explore a bit the situation. It was a way of getting empathy with the situation, of sensitizing you with the context. Of course you work there, so you know it, but it's always better to prepare yourself a bit. That's why we use these self-ethnography tables, which is a way of constraining your explorative actions through specific tools. So I give you specific topics that you should work on, like define a situation, define an activity, define the content shared, and define the and find out what kind of specific things you think could be improved. This was a way of making you of preparing you for the next step, which was the group intervention. The group intervention, it's like an ideation phase. It's where you as participants, you do an intervention in the space. You do things there. Actually, it's the space where you work. So, and there were other people working there. So it could be seen also some kind of a performance or something like that from the people that actually are not involved. The idea here is that by doing it in context, you don't have to imagine, you don't have to think about all these little things that matter. You can actually just feel it, touch it. So for example, the level of detail, it will go much further than just words. The size of the things that you did, whether in real size, the information shown was the information needed. And actually what's more important, the way you did it, the behavior or the way you transform your way of acting, it's what was really relevant. And that's why, I forgot something. Anyway, we just leave it. That's why later on you had to present your work. You had to explain how this object will behave in context. But actually, for me, what it was is that you role-played your desired situation. You role-played how it should be. So this design action was an excuse to see which behaviors are what people want, which is the behaviors that you would like to have in your office. Because now it's done on paper, but this is also a way of saying that it doesn't matter what kind of technology is. What I would like is to behave like this. It's important also to make things diverge a bit. We said before that whoa. Anyway, I forgot to cut the the thing. What it's important, we said that the information should be contextualized to the actions that they support. That's why I gave you predefined actions that actually define my framing or my way of seeing situated media. So for me, what you can do with media, it's discussing, getting inspired, connecting things, or constructing your own knowledge. So what I did, that's like the pillars that I think are important. So I gave you these pillars as a way of diverging, as a way of getting different ideas, or as a way of defining the boundaries of what's possible. If I didn't have done that, most of the concepts might have converged into one same thing. By giving you these constraints, in a way, I force you to look outside or to just expand the possibilities. And then finally, what we are still working on, it's on the wall of fame. So in a way, if we did this this intervention in the space, we have these live objects that then we look through a safari. So normally if you hand them, then you show them as trophies. So actually it's what we did. We show the trophies next to the toilet at the mediatic. So the idea here is like, okay, that's what we've done. Everybody can see it. So it's a way also to discuss things, to give it, to confront it, not just with the people that were in the workshop, but all the people working there. It's a way of defining opportunities through this reflection about the outcome that happened. So these are not defined lines of work. These are possible behaviors that you would like to implement in your working space. And through these objects, these were the medium to comment and discuss about it. There was also a web version of it. So what happened next? Or what's happening right now? So what's happening now is the conceptual and embodiment design phases, which is in a way two clashing things. So on one side, it's about exploring the conceptual space through out-of-the-box ideas for extreme divergence. So it's about, again, seeing what's possible or what you are possible of doing. And then it's about converging again. It's defining the design space through the constraints based on the specific situations that were created before, on the behaviors that you want to have. So first concept, it's called Who I Am, and it's about communicating and disseminating your latest work. So it's about work that have been already done, that it's finished. So these are the possibilities, the skills that we have as designers to develop this. So we can develop things that show augmented information about your work. We can actually embed technology on yourself to show it. We can create a way of showing the relations between people, or when you get into the room, what kind of things you've been doing, who you are. And how this transformed into a concept, how this was transformed into something useful for you. So it was about creating some kind of smart presentation objects, which could be cards, but you can also think of just a web-based presentation that you can use on your phones or things like this, or your tablets, which helps you to present yourself and the work you've done in a really easy way, in events, meetings, with external people. So if we support this service for you as the Open University, actually what we can also get is an overview of all the projects or the latest projects that are happening in each group. So you can actually have a wall, or you have a website where actually the latest projects are shown there with actually the best photos possible and the best text possible. Why is that? Because actually each text, it's meant for each person to present themselves. So for each person, this information is really meaningful. It's not noise. It's not like something you have to do because you have to. Something that you will do because it will help you to present you better. And that's the main thing of what I call this situated media, or the situated bookmarking. It's that by relating the creation or sharing of content with meaningful actions, the information obtained, it will be also meaningful. The problem with recommendations is the garbage in, garbage out thing. So if you get not relevant information, you will get not relevant results. So that's why we are trying to avoid here, by relating the creation and consumption of information into activities that are meaningful for you, that are relevant, that really will make a difference for you if you do it right or wrong. So the next concept is like what I'm interested in. And it relates a bit with the idea of this magic hat where you can put requests and get needs out or answers out. It's about finding who can help you to answer things. It's about knowing who does what. It's about having this cloud, information cloud, that knows what you do, what you want, and connects people together. So it's about broadcasting your curiosity and expertise. But how can you do that? Imagine that, in a way, if you want to ask for a question, if you want to ask for something that you want to get feedback, you first present the information and then you ask the question. Then what you're doing is actually posting relevant information or from websites or from your own work or things that actually could be interesting to discuss and talk about. So what we are doing is that by putting your goals behind, or by requesting you to upload some information in order to provide a service for you to answer these goals, we are having this layer of, for each person, of interesting topics. Interesting topics that will be shown also from other people, and that when you pass by their table, you can discuss about it. The problem is that if you just post a question, the question doesn't mean anything if you don't know about the topic. The question doesn't really make you curious about what it is about. But if I put you the content first, then you can decide if it's important for you or not, and later on decide if you want to answer or not. Also, this information can be then moved into the library, and this information can be used as a way of augmenting the way of searching information, searching for resources, etc. Could be a way of getting recommendations based on the number of people that commented on it, the number of people that said it was interesting or not, etc. So again, it has two sides. Why it has two sides? Because it supports two different activities. And for each activity, there's a specific technology to do it, which is tailored to it. Instead of using general technologies, we work more in a more system point of view, and we develop technologies that fit specific needs or specific functionalities. And then finally, the last one, it's called What Am I Doing?, which is about sharing and commenting on ongoing work. So it's about, again, similar topics that we already discussed. It's about sharing information, having a tag cloud, but now it relates to your activities, to meetings. It relates to what's happening now in the present and will happen in the future. So the concept then becomes this kind of sharing and preparing display for meetings. So the idea here is that when you have a meeting, you reserve the room and you put actually the name there. You put like, hey, from 12 to 1, I have a meeting here. Why not actually augment this information by saying what the meeting is about and letting people comment and add information if they want to? It's related to the concept that you develop about showing your goals, your interests. Why not people can actually use this interface to actually already say, I would like to discuss this and this. But also what you're doing is opening up to everybody in the room about what's going to happen, and letting them, if they want, to add also information, because there might be someone else that knows about the topic and can give you a few references or a few clues. So the thing is that what actually here, it's more like a list of things that is happening. It's a way of showing in real time the activity of a room. On the other side, it also prepares the meeting by having the goals of each person, interesting references to talk about, or interesting topics to say, and other related information that other people think that you might use. So this is, whoop, sorry, I forgot to put the stop thing. Okay, so this is what we've been working till now. And that's what the presentation was about. So it took 1 hour, which is good, I think. So now the idea is to, in groups, discuss a bit what these three concepts. In groups a bit, see how this will be part of your daily life. So see how these three concepts will be useful for you and how they tap into the tools that you already use. So how this wall will relate to your phone, because you already use Outlook or Google Calendar for that. So now we have these three new objects, or these multiple objects that will be part of your own world, on your own ecological system, no? Or your own space. How they will fit there, which one will fit better. What I would like is that you write in groups, you decide which one it fits better, and write a short story about how this, in one day of work, it will be used. Does it make sense? Or is it a bit like too abstract? No. Okay, the idea is that you have three concepts. You're in groups of 2 or 3, maybe 2 it's okay. You discuss which one fits better in your life, which one will be better for you in your working life. This discussion you will be commenting a few topics. So it's better because of this, it's better because of that, or it doesn't work because of these things. What I would like is that these topics that you discuss, try to transform it into like a little story of one day. So instead of saying it's good because it helps me to improve my planning, or it helps people to actually plan the meeting for me, you can say, well, this actually makes me reduce 3 minutes of my preparations or half an hour, because actually the planning gets spread all over the day. And then later I can go to do this and that or something like that. Anyway, just try it out. See, actually, just try to justify why you selected one of these. What? Yeah. Well, I can leave them on. I don't know if I'm not sure if I can just like have. So there are 3 kinds of information. One is the work already done, which is the way of defining yourself. It's the idea that you can have a platform or a tool that helps you to present yourself to others when you are in a meeting in a really easy and simple way. So some kind of smart card or an application for your phone that shows a few photos or a few things about about the things you've done that you are proud of. This in a way can also be used not just to show just you, but show the work of the group when someone else comes in, when someone else from another department or someone else doing a fellowship comes into to the group. The other one, it's more like showing what people are interested in, what are interested in getting feedback, what they are interested in showing to others. The idea is you normally say, hey, have you seen this? Do you know what it means? So the idea is that this and what will put it before. So first you show the information and then the question will come later. So what you are creating, it's like a way of visualizing all this information, like some Twitter feed, something like that, like the Flipboard thingy, where actually content comes first and then the question comes later. This also will help you, in a way, to have this thing in your room or in your working space, to first get inspired by what the others think could be interesting, but also to support conversations in the working space based on these topics that will change every minute or every hour. At the same time, all these like interesting topics and things like that will be used in the library to relate the content you have stored digitally in the library to this content that comes from the web or comes from events or comes from other things. So that's the second one. And then the third one, it's more this kind of board next to the presentation rooms, where actually you can post what you are interested to discuss this day and a short introduction of the meeting. So what you normally send by email could be shown there. And people that are not in the meeting can also see it and can comment on it. The idea is that then what you have is when you start the meeting, well, let's say that what you're doing is you are expanding the preparation of the meeting, and not just in time, but also to other people that are not directly involved. And that's it. We already, in a way, tried to do this mapping. Well, they tried. So the idea with this is that to see how all these concepts relate together. So I'm not really asking you, asking you which one you like and justify that. It's an excuse to find out actually the relation between these concepts and what you do in your work, in order to create this relation, the relation of the system.
The concepts are the three questions.
Sí.